Why do we study history? After this assignment, you should be able to provide several reasons for why we study history. This is a quick introduction video of how to complete this worksheet. And so your screen should look similar to this screen, and you just click on complete this worksheet, and you will click make a copy. And I'm going to take you through the first few, and then you're going to work on trying to finish it. So here's where I can explain why we study history. And here's our starter. Why should we study history? So you can think of any reason you want. Maybe just pause the video and think of it. Why should we study history? So pause it now. Okay. Now I'm just going to share you one common one a lot of people do, and it's an excellent reason. Why do we study history? So we don't make the same mistakes. So maybe you have something similar to that, and maybe come up with something different, and that's great. And you'll have an opportunity to share with the whole class if you have different ideas, and hopefully you come up with some, because that's our next big assignment. And so for this assignment, you're going to study the images in the text, and you have to try to write a phrase that explains why we study history according to these images in these texts. So why do we learn about terrible things in history, such as the Salem witch trials or the Trail of Tears? And the Salem witch trials is when people were accused of being witches, and they were hanged, and they were humiliated, and they had their property taken away. Some people were even tortured. And so really awful event that happened in the New England area in a city called Salem. And, and here's another terrible event. This is when primarily the Cherokee tribe, but there were some other tribes too, were driven off their land. And the American government said, you just have to leave. And you're going to have to move like a couple thousand miles away. You got to bring all your stuff. And about a quarter of them died on the way. And so this is called the Trail of Tears. It's the trail where they cried. And so these are awful things. These are terrible things. And we're going to learn a lot of awful things about war is terrible, and death and slavery. So why do we learn about these terrible things? What can history teach us based on the previous slide? And so, you can think, what you want, and you can say it in your own words. I'm going to say, we learn about terrible things to make sure that it doesn't happen again, right? And so that was kind of our starting slide. We learn about these awful things. We want to prevent them from happening again. Here's another slide. Why do we learn about heroes who resisted oppression? This is Frederick Douglass. He was born into slavery. He ran away, he escaped, and he became one of the most famous authors and writers and speakers in America fighting against slavery. This is Chief Joseph. He fought a war against the U.S. government to keep his land. He lost, and he was put on a reservation. This is a lady named Elizabeth Cady Stanton. She's kind of maybe one of the main founders of the women's rights movement in America in the 1800s. She was not allowed to go to university. She could not become a doctor or a lawyer. She couldn't vote. And she gave speeches and tried to push for women's rights, and she made a big difference. So why do we learn this? Why do we learn about these people who are fighting? And you can put, maybe you have your own opinion and you should write it. I'm going to write something like, it can inspire us to work for good causes to make America better. Right? We want to make America a better place. And so now for the rest of the slides, there's just a few more. Just keep doing the same thing. Read the text, study it. What can we learn from each of these slides? And then you just type right in the the Google slide, and you'll submit the Google slide. And so you'll do this one, this one, this one, and this one. So there's just 4 more. And so I think you can handle that. And if you do get stuck, write an email or ask a question.